Greetings. It's time to talk a little sports with Tracy Ring, Tony Wright, and myself, JJ Valentine. The girl behind the camera is Chelsea Lynn. Well, it's Wednesday here in Southern Colorado, so we're going to talk a little bit about the weekend. We got football, there's softball, volleyball. It's a busy, busy weekend, but the first real big game of this 2022 high school football campaign is coming up on Friday night. But there's a little prelude to that with some high school football coming up Thursday night, which should be a lot of fun, and we're talking East and Central.
I call it the hood game. You know, it's the hood game because you got inner city schools, east over in the Bessemer area, not just limited to Bessemer, but in that area, and then you got the east side, man, you know, and all my Latin brothers out there, man, but it's Sanchez, it's Ian Sanchez, and Martinez versus Martinez, you know, and everybody else, man, and I love East and Central, but, you know, covering the games is always an experience because there seems to be a lot of sometimes controversy. There's penalties. You know, it's going to be a good inner city matchup. We got a lot to talk about, but I'm looking forward to tomorrow night and the big Pigskin Classic. We got to look at County. West had a very impressive victory. Sports is alive and well in Pueblo.
And East has been great for a number of years. They won that state championship run. They kind of were down a little bit. They had the freshman quarterback, and I'm drawing a blank of his name because he played basketball as well. And he showed a lot of talent last year. Central, you kind of never know what you get with Central. They're real pesky, scrappy, and I imagine they'll be the same. That's a big early season matchup, though, because usually those teams don't meet till later in the season. It's usually not week one for East and Central. Well, I can't remember that in a long time.
Yeah, Central has, I think the last time Central actually beat East was back in 2009 when we covered them when they went to the state semifinals. They had an outstanding team, and, you know, it's a big game for Central mentally, see if they can get over the hump, but you know, it's going to be a lot of fun, man. I mean, that's a great inner-city rivalry. But a lot of that has to do with they split the leagues up now. There's no longer
you talked about that last Friday.
So, you know,
that league, those leagues are so bizarre now. It's just weird. And I mean, and ultimately, it just comes down to power rankings anyway.
Absolutely.
So I mean, your league helps you if it's a better league. But if it's not a better league, you got to play better non-conference. Because, I mean, they award you for, I mean, if you get beat 52-0 to the number one ranked team, it's like the best thing you could ever do because you get so many power points. So it's so weird the way Shasta does it. And I know they tried to, it's somewhat of a better way of equalizing it because you don't let bad teams from weaker conferences get in easier. But it is a weird thing. And the way they did this year, just, I would have never imagined the way they divided those leagues this year. Just kind of different. But not in a bad way. Just
I think when you talk about that kind of stuff and you go back to the East Eagles after a big win over Cheyenne Mountain last Friday night, I mean, they got a huge win, 47-17. We're going to go back to that quarterback when you talk about the young guy. I think he's going to be very key. And that's what they've been hoping for was they groomed him a little bit throughout last year and looking for him to make his run in his sophomore year. And that's going to be huge. And I think having a good basketball season like he did kind of rolled over into his summer prep of football to get ready for the fall. So I think that's going to be key from an offensive standpoint to get back to where you're talking about when they had the run with the back-to-back championships where they were just loaded offensively and solid defense. I think they want to get back to those glory days, if you will.
Yeah, and they can pass the football. I understand they had a couple of big bombs for touchdowns in their victory over Cheyenne Mountain. You know, Central has got everybody back. I only think they lost about 2 players. They knocked off Alamosa by a score of 40-9. Obviously, Alamosa is a 2A school, but we've covered them extensively throughout the years, and you know they're always prepared and ready when they come to Pueblo. But give it up for Pueblo Central a win there, so that's going to be a big early season matchup. You know,
and I think you talked about it being big early season matchup. Both teams are 1-0.
Yeah.
So I mean, now you got crosstown rivalry matchup. To go to 2-0, one's going to have a blemish, losing to the other. And I think that's key because of the PowerPoint situations. Comes down to that. It's plain and simple RPI at the end of it all.
And nerves. I mean, that's the biggest thing we saw last week, like South and County, just nerves. You could see new guys in different positions, like Ortiz, the quarterback from South. They look nervous. I mean, and playing varsity football, it's a different game. I mean, obviously in Pueblo, Colorado, it's different than like in your Louisiana and you got 10 D1 guys or whatever, but it's still varsity football. It's still a different mindset. And kids have nerves. I mean, they're not immune to that. And if you're not nervous, there's probably something not right with you because even Tom Brady and Joe Montana get nervous, for God's sake. So that's going to play a key part too. And obviously the biggest game of the week that you guys know about, the Pigskin Classic, that's huge, and especially after what we saw from Pueblo County last Friday night.
The difference in that game for me is going to be classification, because
Right.
County was strong early on when they were all playing that 3A, 4A type football, but now you're talking 4A football versus 3A football, and that's been the story and the difference over the course of the past several years with Coach Wilson, Coach Pinkerton, and now, of course, Coach Baderas.
Right.
Those guys are playing at an extremely high level and having to compete at 5A and other sports,
Right.
i.e. basketball and baseball. That takes
And that's
things
why
to
they have
another level.
problems, because they're a small 5A school. Like, they're right on the edge, and 4A they're huge, and then 3A obviously County. But the biggest difference you notice, and I know that I'm repeating here, is just depth. I mean, the bigger schools have depth because why? They have more kids to choose from. More kids go out for the football team. You don't have every single guy going both ways on the football field. If it's hot, there's a lot of different factors in there. They may, County, IE may have more talent, and I don't know that they do, but they have less numbers. They have less guys, getting rest, and West is bringing in fresh guys off the bench that are ready to go.
I think that West County has a lot of depth too.
Yeah.
Their sidelines look like a 4A team, but West had a big victory beating Dakota Ridge by a score of 21-14.
And that's a team they have struggled to beat.
That's
over
it.
the course
They've
of
really
the
struggled
years.
to beat them over the years. But the thing about it is that, it's going to be a game that's won or lost at the line of scrimmage,
no
guys.
doubt.
I happened to see Ramey Martinez at the State Fair last Saturday for Band Day. And he told me, we're not going to change anything for Pueblo West.
Right.
They're going to try to ram it down our throat. We're going to try to ram it down theirs. But, so many times the games between Pueblo West and Pueblo County, JJ, we've covered a lot of them together, and we were at other opposite radio stations, but it always usually comes down to turnovers and a couple of big plays. West only state championship came in 2007. Don't forget, County was ranked number 1 and 3 that year. County actually beat Pueblo West that year.
Right.
We were at that game. I
Yep.
mean, that's when Pueblo West had Chavaria, they had Justin
Chavaria.
Jackson,
Yeah.
Bo Martinez, the Vaughn kid. They had a great team. And Pueblo County had Meserve, and they had Avila and all of those guys. But it just comes down to a couple of big plays, and it's going to be at CSU Pueblo. It's going to probably be about 7,000 people there. And I just want to know how Pueblo County is going to match up with Pueblo West at the line of scrimmage. I mean, West is serious, you guys. They're a young team. But this team, Coach Baderas, anybody who's followed football in Southern Colorado knows about Florence football. I'll never forget the first time I saw them. They run that veer and
Single wing.
And the father Baderas, they start those kids
Clint,
back. Clint. They start those kids back when they're in grade school and middle school. And it's just going to be a matter of execution, a couple of big plays, and who's going to win a battle at the line of scrimmage. And it's going to be a great matchup.
You said one thing a moment ago about Pueblo West being young. County is the same exact way. They're young, but in their skill positions, they got a couple of upperclassmen, some juniors and some seniors. But at the quarterback, they got a kid that's a great baseball
incredible.
player.
Yeah.
But what a talented athlete, and the mind that this kid has. He's so heady, talking about Cohen Glenn.
Yeah.
And his mom pointed something out to me earlier because his Cohen's younger sister plays for PV, Pleasant View Middle School, of which my granddaughter plays for. They got a nice little win here in their first opener of the season in middle school softball. But she hit a bomb to left center field deep, and it was a no-doubter. She left the yard,
I saw it,
but she
yes.
swings the bat just like her brother. But her mom pointed out to me, she said, did you notice that in baseball he throws left-handed, but in football he throws it with the right hand? And I went,
That's amazing.
oh, that just blew
amazing.
me away.
And to add to that, you take a look at Cohen Glenn and some of the kids for both teams. Maybe they're young as far as football goes, but Glenn's played. They played. They've got a lot of big game experience in other sports. And I think it was Dave Lockert or somebody that told me that can roll over to other sports.
Sure
look
does.
at Cohen Glenn, man. He plays for Pueblo Azteca, man. He's playing against teams from Los Angeles, from Las Vegas, top tier teams up in northern Colorado, and the same with some of the Pueblo West kids. So young teams, but not only that, they have a lot of big game experience in other sports, but they also have coaches and parents who know how to prepare them for this kind of big game as well.
And that's why I think this year's matchup, in my opinion, could be a little bit different. I mean, if people are going, oh, who you picking? Well, obviously It goes to Pueblo West. They've got the advantage because we talked about classification and numbers. But with all the youthfulness that both teams have, they got extreme talent, but they're young. So to me, that's going to be a little bit of the equalizer there, that sophomore versus sophomore, junior versus junior. I think the difference is going to be where the underclassmen are. How big are they going to step up in a game of that magnitude?
Yes, and it's amazing how far this rivalry has come in a short period of time. You know me, I like to go back in time a little bit. I'll never forget the first ever Pigskin Classic. It was in the year 2000.
To the Wayback Machine we go, Mr. Peabody.
And Josh Salerno. Josh Salerno was a great athlete.
Absolutely.
He was a bad dude at Pueblo County. Heck of a baseball player and a great guy, too. But he had like 2 touchdown passes from Beldis Sperry, Corey's older brother. And the score in that game was 29-7. And County dominated, from 2001-2. And then in 2002, they won something like 54-13. The tide started to turn a little bit in 2003. Sperry ran wild. They had brothers Darren and Martinez and Roger and all of those guys. And Chance Thomas, I remember. But the thing about it, County jumped out to a 29-7 lead, and Pueblo West had that great running back, Matt Gersick, and it was 29-27, And then in 2004, Pueblo West finally broke through. That's when the growth really started taking place, and they really kind of dominated the series ever since. But so many of the parents, the teachers, and the faculty know each other. They're so intertwined there. It's going to be a great matchup and a very festive atmosphere.
The thing that impressed me about Pueblo County, JJ, was the quickness on offense and defense.
Absolutely.
And if you want to beat a team like West, it's vanilla versus vanilla. They both know what they're going to do. I would say a trick play will come into something like this, because I can see Baderas doing it. I could certainly see County's new coach do trick play. Special teams could be the difference. But what surprised me at all the games I'd covered at County at different times, obviously when Corey was there, it was a little different because he was such a higher level athlete. But just the team speed of County surprised me with South, because I hadn't seen South, and I don't want to say unprepared. They're always prepared. It just County made South look really human, really average, and usually it's the other way around. Usually South's dominating, South's the one pushing the tempo, and I was like, man, County's fast. Like, they were super fast, and they got a lot of guys going both ways, so there was a lot of things involved, and that's why I think if you have the quickness of your County, you can compete against West if you, don't tire guys out, if it's not 95 degrees, and you're not getting beat by depth. Because that's the biggest thing, and I hate to harp on that, but West against smaller schools can win because they just bring guys off the bench that are better than the guy they're going in for. County, they're going 11 on 11, or guys are going both ways, so it's actually 22 guys. It's probably more like 12, 13 guys total, because they just don't have a lot of depth, and that's where those bigger teams, the bigger guy, they end up, especially with Baderas, because they just grind and grind.
Because you can give a couple of guys a play or two off, rest their
or
legs,
bring in a different running back who's fresh legs,
without
and your
question.
defensive linemen are sitting there gassing and that's how you win. And at Florence they did it because you're going to smaller school, and we know what you're going to do. Try to stop me. It gets a little different when you go bigger school, because when you go 5A, like West has learned in other sports, they have a lot more talent than even probably more than West. But in football, it's different because there's just numbers and attrition. But I was highly impressed with County. With the new coach out there against South, I don't know what I bet my house that County would have won or would have won that way. I just was almost shocked that they were so dominating. And that's got to bode well for them going to a game like this, because this might be their toughest opponent. I don't know who else on their schedule, because if they go 3A, it's going to be better than West.
Without question. And that takes me back to what Tony said a bit ago about feeder programs. You talk about Florence. It's a one-horse town. So you got the middle school kids that are going to go to Florence. So they go to those summer camps. They always put the big dog husky camps on. So they're going to go to that camp. And from that camp, the 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th graders all know what to expect when they get there as a freshman. Canyon City is the same exact thing. They're a one-horse town. So the couple of middle schools that are there, they go to the Tiger camps, same thing. Pueblo West and Pueblo County do the same thing. They've got their middle schools, they got a couple middle schools within their communities that are going to those camps, and they are doing the exact same thing. So that's where that strength of program comes in. And think about it, when you go back to 06, 07, when County played for a state championship, lost to Alamosa in the title game, you know, Clay Garcia
went to Mines.
And he played all 4 years at
Yeah,
Mines.
that was the
the
they
Yon
had the,
boys.
They had the
Dustin
Yons.
Bolt.
Yeah,
the
they had
Yons.
60-yard field goal kicker.
Sonny Yon and
yes.
Cody Yon were.
Sonny and Cody Yon. I mean,
Both went to Minnesota to wrestle.
Right, Division One
Yeah,
players.
they
So you
had-
look at that, high D2 players.
Yeah.
But it goes back to that situation where you start to want to take your program back to where it is. That kind of, for me, started it for County.
Right.
Because now, modern day Pueblo County, they're always in it now.
Yeah.
Before they were a carpet. We talked about that last
They were
Friday night.
doormat,
it was like, man, they were the
County's
doormat.
County's the
It's like,
homecoming game.
They were a homecoming game, and I felt bad for them because I remembered that,
Yeah.
being part of that we're everybody's homecoming game. It's like
52 to
schedule
nothing at
county,
halftime
schedule
again.
county. We want that dance
Yeah.
to be fun. Schedule county.
Yeah.
That's not the case anymore, and I think Friday night's matchup is going to be huge, and that's going to draw a lot of attention. It's not only going to draw local attention; it's going to draw attention from all across the state of Colorado.
And either way it ends, it's going to end well for County because of power points.
Absolutely.
West
You're talking
somewhat
Troy.
maybe wins a little on that if they win, but if County loses, they still win.
Absolutely.
Because West is going to probably be in the playoffs more than likely. So it's a good game for them early season, especially after a win.
Your final thoughts on the Pigskin?
All
man?
I want
Gonna-
to say is this, folks. Get out there to the Thunder Bowl. Game time is 7 o'clock. We're going to have it on SoCoTicket.com. The three men that you're looking out here, we'll be there to cover it. Chelsea Lynn will be there. It's going to be probably a packed house. Hopefully it won't rain too much or anything. Don't forget they have that big video screen there where you can see all of the action. And it's going to be a game that's won in the trenches. The team that blocks the best and tackles the best will win it. And the team that keeps the turnovers to a minimum will have a great chance to win. It might be a game that's over in 2.5 hours, but it's going to be a great one.
Yeah, this thing is going to go a couple of different ways because both teams are very physical, and that's because the coaching staffs are disciples of very physical,
Yes.
come at you type of
Right.
coaches. But not only do they have physicality, both of these teams are extremely fast.
Yeah.
They're quick. So this is going to be one for the ages. I think it's going to be a fun football game.
Absolutely,
no doubt
it
about
is.
it. A couple other games to keep note of. Let's see, Friday night, South Colts are on the road. They go to Colorado
They
Springs.
go to Colorado Springs, take on
Disco.
Discovery Canyon. Discovery Canyon, can't remember quite the opponent they beat, but had a handy win last week. South don't want to say it's a must-win, but in a way it kind of is, but they're playing a tough opening
Again,
game.
that's a big game early
That's a
for
big
them on
game
the road.
early for South. I think you'll see the biggest improvement for South will come from week 1 to week 2, especially in the passing game. It's hard to get that timing down in practice, but their quarterback has had that one game under his belt. I'm
The
not
jitters,
saying South's
the
going to
nerves
win
are
it,
gone.
but
Yeah.
I think South's offense will be a lot more proficient on Friday night than it was last Friday night.
Jeff Wilson, the new head coach of Pueblo Centennial, got a big win last week. They want to roll that momentum into Saturday.
The big thing for Pueblo West is their C team. People told me they weren't going to even have a junior varsity for Centennial, excuse me.
Yeah.
That Pueblo Centennial wasn't going to even have a junior varsity or a C team. They had a C team. Their C team beat Pueblo West 14-12. That's a huge game. One thing I always say about Jeff Wilson, if you're going to play football for Jeff, man, you better be ready to hit.
Yeah, you buy in or you
talking
buy
about,
out.
You're talking about 2 hours of Nutcracker, Oklahoma drills.
Yeah.
You're talking about you have physical hitting in there. And the guy said, well, they beat Mitchell. Mitchell's nothing. Well, Centennial was just one of those teams that was nothing.
But you got to start somewhere.
You got to start somewhere,
Like when
man.
you're
That's a big
if
victory.
you're Jeff Wilson, you got to start somewhere. You got to have people believe. And with open enrollment, you get 5 or 6 wins. All of a sudden, hey, I'm going to go to Centennial
and
and
a
play
new school
football.
to build, too.
Yeah.
And a new school to
A new
build.
school that's
Right,
on the way.
so, I
A new
mean-
school to
and
build.
in the very near future.
Right.
In the
I
very
would
near
see
future,
the next
man.
couple years. So,
And
there's
they
a lot
play-
to go
yep,
on there.
Yep. And they
And-
play Palmer Saturday, a 4A school.
Palmer's
How cool
very beatable, though.
Yeah.
They're beatable.
Palmer's
That's
very,
what I'm
absolutely
saying,
they
they're
are.
beatable, which-
Centennial goes 2-0 and beat
Yeah.
a 4A school. All of a sudden, we're talking about them, man. With some
now
big games
they
coming
put
up.
themselves early in the mix of things.
That's right.
Which is truly exciting.
absolutely.
We're going to have more guests, and of course, join us again. Don't forget, we got Thursday night football. We've got Friday night football. And of course, we're into the final weekend of the 2022 Colorado State Fair right here in the beautiful city of Pueblo, Colorado. Anything else? Final thoughts, guys?
As far as the state fairs, Dave Chappelle will say, I got 2 tickets.
I was going to say, as Tony
Yeah.
Wright's favorite quarterback said, let's ride.
Oh, no, man. That's another story for another time.
And before we go any further, I do want to make mention that the Canyon City Recreation and Park District has one of the greatest haunted houses in the state of Colorado.
I've heard.
Top 3, one of the top 3 in the state. And this thing is off the chain. And of course, we are your ticket to a free ticket to this year's haunt in Canyon City. Stay close for more details. That's going to do it. My name is
Okay,
JJ
guys, the rain's
Valentine.
getting ready to come down. Once again, thanks to my buddy JR Roofing and Maintenance there. Rick, thanks for coming on with us, as well as Gigi's Barbecue, too.
Thanks all the sponsors, JJ, Tony. It's always
Thank
a
you,
pleasure,
my
man.
friend.
It's always
All
a
right.
pleasure.
Chelsea, great work. We'll do it again next time. You've been watching Talking Sports with Tracy, the Tone Man, and Double J right here at SoCoTicket.com.